all of these world leaders just have everybody
They just call
on
each
their
other because they can.
contact list of
Like
their
your
iPhone.
your actual phone would be like worth millions of dollars. Like if someone just stole it, they have all of your data on it. Like no.
And my question
He
is like, where is he on the favorites contact list? Is he up at
Right.
the top? Is he just
Because
under
I would
Brigitte?
assume like Trump has like, lists, VIP lists. I'll take these calls at this time. I don't know. I just think that's really weird that he would just have the president's cell phone number.
Welcome to Rivera and Reeves, the podcast where we break through the bias, report the news, and occasionally trip over our soapboxes while ranting about the headlines.
Every week, we tackle the biggest stories with sharp analysis, unfiltered honesty, and just enough sarcasm to keep it fun.
So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and join us as we wade through the spin because the media is trash and we have zero patience for their nonsense.
Hey, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Rivera and Reeves. I'm Mercedes, and I'm here with my friend Rachel. Say hello, Rachel.
Hello, Rachel.
We've been kind of rushing in here, technical difficulties, internets, all kinds of stuff. And I also want to, anybody who is watching us on video, I want to point out that my wall is no longer plywood, but it is now painted.
It looks good. Real good. I love that color. I love it.
I'm very proud of the fact that now it's painted plywood because eventually it'll be a bookcase, but you can't see it on camera. So let's just pretend it's a beautiful green wall.
Well, in that apothecary, cabinet, it needs to be highlighted. It needs to be on a wall with that green and some wallpaper. The white is not doing it justice.
That eventually will also happen. Like, my house is eternally in some kind of renovation. So
same.
We're all doing this together. You're going to see things change behind me gradually. So I actually got that. I think that apothecary is from like the late 1800s. Like it was.
Where'd you find it? How much did you pay for it?
I found it on Facebook Marketplace, and the family that had it since I think the 40s, and they had an apple orchard. I think up in New York State, and then they moved down here and brought it with them. And then they were downsizing, so they sold it. And they had gotten it from a general store up in upstate, like in New York.
How could you get rid of that piece?
So, I mean, I don't know.
How much did you pay for it?
I don't even remember, honestly.
Was it a good deal?
Yeah, it was a good deal. But I sincerely, it was over $1,000, but I cannot. I think it was like 14, but I don't know if it was that much.
It's a substantial piece of furniture. I know people who paid for like some ugly like couches that they use for a year and a half till they get bored with the color. So that's a good piece.
No.
You'll have it forever.
Yeah, I love it. It has my apothecary and my herbalizations and everything in it. So
are you an oily person? Do you put oilies?
I'm not an oily person as much as I am like medicinal herbs. And it's just like on the like just dabbling for like cold remedies, muscle ache, that sort of stuff. Like I try to use that before I have to like take medication.
Like there's dried herbs in there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at you.
Like it's a legitimate apothecary.
Dr. Quinn medicine woman. What's going on? You have a little cauldron making little potions.
Yeah, I make, salves and,
Wow. Okay.
I just dried a whole bunch of elderberry from my neighbor.
Of course
to make
you did.
Elderberry syrup and stuff like that.
I just bought a bunch of elderberry gummies. Does that
told
count?
You to.
I know. I brought them home and my children are like, what are these? I'm like, I don't know. Mercedes said to take them. Just take them.
Vitamins.
I would have made a great 1980s mom. Like, here's a popsicle. Go outside and play. Like, rub some Bactine on it if it gets hurt. Bye. Because every time one of my kids gets sick, people are like, here's my 14-step for the health of your child to be boosted. And it's like oils and herbs and medicines. And I'm like, just have some saltine crackers. It'll be fine. Vicks VapoRub.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. For us, everything is Vipaporu. Like,
that's it. And watch an episode of The Price is Right. You're fine.
Exactly. So, but okay, enough of our start off ramble. I guess we need to get into the program today.
I suppose.
Yes. So if this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss another episode. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday talking about what in the world is going on in the world, because there's plenty to talk about. All right. If you are a paying supporter, you're going to be listening to this before anyone else. So thank you and welcome to our little secret layer here. No, not really. But you will also be getting this weekend a bonus episode of our unfiltered episode. So Those are a lot of fun. They're more evergreen. We just kind of share our thoughts unfiltered on what is going on or things that we haven't had a chance to talk about. And we also just got our new YouTube channel launched. So if you like video for free with ads, unfortunately, you can go and visit our YouTube, and the link is in the show notes. So, okay, let's go ahead and get this started. So first, we're going to do just some rapid fire kind of like, let's bring you up to date on some stories that we have either been covering or in the news today. And then we are going to be talking and recapping our thoughts on Charlie Kirk's memorial and the reactions previous and also after Charlie Kirk's memorial, mainly, which
Are we gonna have to talk about the media?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think so, unfortunately, because that's part of what we do.
No, I know.
So, I mean, it is what it is. But before we get into it, so what's going on today? So Trump was in New York this morning. He spoke before the UN General Assembly this morning at 10 a.m. Actually, it was funny. Apparently, when they walked into the UN, him and Melania, the escalator died on them just as soon as they stepped on it. So they had to like walk up the escalator. And then when he went to go and speak, his teleprompter pooped out too.
Wow.
So he's just kind of like, what is going on?
Yeah.
In addition to that, I wanted to play this one for you because I think this is hilarious. So, of course, when the president comes into town, the motorcade comes, there's security, there's all kinds of things. And a lot of times they'll block off roads because, of security. So this video started to go around first thing in the morning. And this is Macron. Let's check it out.
I know. I'm sorry, I'm the president. I'm really sorry. It's just that everything's in frozen right now. There's a motorcade coming right now. I'm sorry.
If you don't see it, let me pause. How are you? Guess what? I'm waiting in the street because everything is frozen for you.
He had to walk to the UN because Trump's motorcade had everything closed off.
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
This guy. Look at him. Oh my gosh. And secretly that Trump loves that. He's like, well, what can I say? Everything closes down when I come to town. What can I say?
I just thought it was so funny. You have the president of France coming in for the UN General Assembly. He's like,
I can't make it.
Bro, I can't make it. You got all the roads blocked off. And now
I kind of like it that does he have Trump on speed dial? Like,
well, that was okay. So I also had that thought. I'm like, so this is how it goes, right? Like all of these world leaders just have everybody.
They just call each other because they
contact lists of
like
their
your
iPhone.
phone, your actual phone would be like worth millions of dollars. Like if someone just stole it, they have all of your data on it. Like, no.
And my question is like, where is he on the favorites contact list? Is he up at the top? Is he just under Brigitte?
I would assume like Trump has like, lists, VIP lists. I'll take these calls at this time. I don't know. I just think that's really weird that he would just have the president's cell phone number.
Yeah. He's like, guess what? I can't make it because you have
do they send each other? I want someone to write a book on that. Do they send each other
text messages?
And memes and GIFs? Like, that's what I want to know. I want a book written about that. In this day of immediate communications via cellular devices, what memes is Trump sending? Who gets texts from Trump?
I would love
those
to
would
see
be the
that.
best texts. That's what I want to know. Or conversely, what if he's actually super boring in text messages? He's just like super animated on Twitter, but he's boring in text.
No,
that would be hilarious.
He probably has a solid gift game for sure.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, he was at the UN General Assembly. He spoke. It took about an hour for him to do his speech. He went full on criticizing failures of globalism, going like point blank, pointing out the failures of immigration policies in these countries, how they're negatively affecting and being detrimental to the country itself and the country's culture. The green like green energy initiatives, still calling them out for buying energy from Russia. Like, he was not there to play or be particularly diplomatic.
I feel like that's kind of his second term. He's like, I'm just here to make the deals.
Yep. In addition, yesterday, he, along with RFK Jr. and also, what is the other guy's name? I forget his name. Marty
Makari.
Yes.
Yeah.
They announced how do I put it? Because it isn't that Tylenol necessarily causes autism. It is that there are warnings of the possibility of the use of Tylenol during, that there's a correlation or a possible correlation of Tylenol causing autism when used during pregnancy, especially when it's used in a large amount and the closer to delivery, I believe is kind of what the distinction that they were making.
Okay.
Of course, look, I haven't gone into this. I don't have an opinion on it. I personally think Tylenol is basically a placebo pill. Okay. That's my personal opinion.
Well, I mean, and think about all of the medications we found out in the past couple of years where they were saying basically, like, wasn't it Sudafed where they're like, it literally does nothing. So you've been taking like red dye 10 years and it's done nothing for you. It is a placebo. So I wouldn't be surprised, but well, no, it does something because when I get a raging headache.
I'm just saying for me, like I am an Advil, ibuprofen hardcore. Like I don't even remember the last time that I've grabbed a Tylenol because I take Tylenol. I feel like it does literally nothing for me.
What are the orange ones that come from Costco?
Those are Motrin.
That we buy in the 2-pack.
Well, usually Motrin. I also, if there's any fellow military brats here, when you would go to the doctor on the base, they would give you two things. They would give you antibiotics, which I rarely took because my mom wasn't like, unless you absolutely need them. And also the horse pill size of Motrin, like giant neon orange Motrin horse pills is what I remember growing up on. And then like the pink, like I think the pink antibiotic stuff too. But that's what I remember growing up taking. And so I've always just taken Motrin, ibuprofen, Advil, something along those lines. I've never been an acetaminophen, but I also don't have children. So I was never told, like, you know what I mean? Like that's typically what's prescribed to women who are pregnant, especially if they have a fever, which is part of the concern that was brought up during this announcement.
Well, and also I think I'm at least a solid like 5 or 10 years older than a lot of the moms that are now really, really all in on like the MAHA movement. So the things that I did as a pregnant person and as a young mom.
As a pregnant person?
A pregnant woman, just a pregnant human, whatever. Yes. Oh, great. We're going to get some mail about that.
So I said it.
Only females can get pregnant. Okay, there. But like I would give my kids like Goldfish and let them watch an hour of Dora the Explorer and definitely give them Tylenol when they had a fever. And just, again, I'd make a great 80s mom. I just don't think that deep into it. And now all the studies are coming out and people are really, really nervous. And I talk with moms now and they say, my gosh, I gave my child 1 dose of Tylenol last month and now I'm very concerned. And I'm like, okay.
That's not what they're announcing, what they're saying. No,
and
they're saying, especially in large doses, especially like instead of waiting until you have a legitimate fever, it's like if you're nervous and you just show a little bit of a fever, then you immediately take it. Like it's almost like to the degree of an abuse of Tylenol. And I believe the studies are proximity to delivery also has something to do with it, because I think it's more like where it's being passed through the umbilical cord versus it, you taking out on the regular. I'm no scientist. Talk to your doctor. I have no idea. All I know is that this announcement has been made. This is a correlation that is of concern that is being investigated. And that, you should talk to your doctor about it. I don't think people should freak out about it. And I also don't think, which, of course, you have some people like that are liberals that are pregnant. They're like, well, I'm going to be taking all the Tylenol that I want.
I just watched a video before we hopped on and it's a woman sitting there fully pregnant and she's all, I'm taking it to prove them wrong. I'm like, not a great idea, lady.
No,
like,
why?
Not even a great idea if there's like no study being done right now. Like, just don't take a bunch of medication to like, tick off your Instagram followers. Like, it's very weird.
I thought I've seen that now already a few times and I'm like, Ladies, please. Like,
Gosh.
calm
Like every time
down.
I open up Instagram, I'm like, women should not vote because y'all are crazy. You guys are nuts. That's why I say the thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so what else is going on? In case we talked about it on Friday, we talked all about Kimmel and the FCC and the hoorah that was going on there. So Disney has announced that Jimmy Kimmel is returning to his late night show tonight, Tuesday. Now, and I believe it says beginning Tuesday night, but however, the affiliates that kind of set this whole thing off, Sinclair and Newstar or
Nexstar,
are not going to be running Jimmy Kimmel, and they're going to be doing alternate programming.
like on their affiliates. So
Correct.
Disney
On
will
their
just be out
affiliates.
of the money from those like 60 plus affiliates.
Correct, which is
Right?
about
Okay.
half of the ABC affiliates in the country.
So then why would Disney do that if they're losing that much money? Why wouldn't they just be like,
Well, okay, so first of all, I think Disney, of course, has
probably thinks
punched
that-
themselves in the face.
yeah.
Because think
totally.
about it. Initially, Disney was a family brand that almost every family wanted to watch and had subscriptions, right? Then they started pushing agendas over the last 4 or 5 years. And a lot of conservatives ended up canceling their Disney subscription, right?
Yep, I did. We did.
Exactly. Well, now they've become, not only is their audience incredibly progressive, but also so are their employees. And then when this happened, their
that's true.
stock
No.
started to tank because now all the leftists are like, well, cancel your Disney. So now
Everybody hates them.
everybody
So-
hates them.
so
and
no,
they
but
have to
they're-
maintain the audience that they do have. So I
Right.
think that's part of it, honestly. Like, again, I think this is all business. And now you start to, like, yes, the FCC or Brendan Carr, like we mentioned before, was throwing
Was
a little
not
bit of weight
helpful.
around and kind of winking and making comments that weren't necessary, right?
Yep, it was not helpful to the situation at all.
It was not helpful to the situation at all. But this is clearly showing that, to me, anyways, that this is business. That he said something incorrect, factually incorrect, really insensitive considering the times that we're in, and considering that these affiliates are mostly within conservative or purple states. They're like, no, we don't have to put up with it anymore. So I don't even know how this is going to work out because of, like, if they're not running if they're not running Jimmy Kimmel, and like there's ad revenue here, and then are they still paying Disney? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, they're no longer
Yeah.
going to be paying Disney for this show. Like, they've really put themselves in a precarious position,
Yeah. And I think,
honestly.
I don't understand how they don't get it after the humongous backlash in the last couple years. They lost so much money and so much of their base, but they must be making it up somewhere else if they're willing to do something stupid like this again. I mean, people don't have an appetite for that, losing half of their affiliate.
I'm actually starting to wonder if they're like kind of like writing it out, because the rumor is that
Maybe.
Kimmel's contract is coming up anyways.
May. It's in May. Yeah.
Yeah. So now the question too is like, maybe they won't even renew his contract. And so they're just trying to make it seem like that they're, you know, I don't know, doing a favor for their audience by bringing him back. But in truth, he's not going to be around for very long. I don't know.
So maybe it's like a weighted out type of situation. Like you
yeah.
mentioned.
So, I
Like,
mean, it
just we
remains
might
to
as
be
well.
seen, because the question is, will they renew his contract? That part we don't know. So I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, this is what happens. Like, honestly, businesses just like be like Mike. Okay.
Yeah.
Be like Mike. Okay. Like, everybody buys sneakers. Like, what is it? He said even Republicans buy sneakers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just don't get political when you're
Just
running
do
a
the
business.
things that everybody wanted to watch, like, you know, a Finding Nemo movie or Frozen. Just go all in on that. Don't try and make new Frozen where like Elsa's going to be a lesbian. Don't do that. It's just children. Well, and they did. They did it with Toy Story. I mean, this is stupid. It's so predictable.
Yes. Well, also kind of predictable, something that the news is not reporting on is that an ABC News affiliate in Sacramento was shot at by, I think this happened September 19th, and the shooter was identified as Aníbal Hernández Santana. He shot into Sacramento's ABC 10 during these Kimball protests. If you guys hear my dogs in the background, it's because the pool guy is starting to close our pool and they're freaking out. Okay. So just bear with me. I apologize. Anyways, he was arrested. He was released on bail for $200,000. Then he was rearrested by the FBI for it's like something about communications interference because he was shooting into a network affiliate that it runs off of the FCC. He was identified as a 64-year-old former California Teachers Union legislative director. His car, and this is from the New York Post reporting, his car contained writings involving Epstein and threatening Trump officials as being next. And then says also, let's see, he was considered, I mean, he had all the signs of just being a TDS radicalized boomer that was upset because of the alleged censorship from the administration and ABC kowtowing and censoring Jimmy Kimmel. So he shot into it. That is leftist violence, okay? Yeah. That is leftist violence that is not being reported on by major news outlets.
Well, and let me just add on to that 2 different stories that I didn't tell you I was going to talk about. It's not in the show notes. I'm sorry, Miss Sadie. First of all, over the weekend, I'm sure a lot of you heard, but if you didn't, it wouldn't be necessarily surprising to me because the media is largely isn't talking about it. But the new details were released surrounding the attempted assassination of Brett Kavanaugh from 2022. The gentleman, his name is Nicholas John, I think it's Rosk. He now identifies as a transgender woman named Sophie. And the defense attorneys are claiming that Ross was coming out privately in 2020. So, about 2 years before he decided he wanted to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh. And yeah, you're not going to hear about that. A Daily Wire reported it, but I didn't see it anywhere else in the news. And then on Sunday, a former employee of the Sky Meadow Country Club in New Hampshire, Hunter Nadeau, I believe that's how you say it, he went in and started shooting at random while a wedding reception's happening, and witnesses reported hearing the shooter making statements like "Free Palestine" and "the children are unsafe during the incident." And authorities claimed that his statements and this is my favorite, that the authorities in New Hampshire said that his statements had nothing to do with the motive.
Yeah, that it was just
to create chaos. Yeah.
Chaos.
So, none of these things are being talked about. I just think that's very interesting because they all seem to align with a leftist ideology.
Well, my question, too, is on that shooting in New Hampshire. Did he not yell anything else? The only thing people are reporting is that he yelled "Free Palestine." So if he just yelled "Free Palestine,"
right?
I don't understand. If you're going to create chaos, I'm just curious, what other things could you be yelling to create said chaos?
I don't know, but
honestly, I think running into a reception
and shooting
with
people
a
creates
gun
chaos.
Is going to create chaos. Yeah. You don't really need to be "Free Palestine" in the midst of that. So I find that very confusing.
Me too.
But nobody's really talking about it. So.
We're not getting any reports, so.
No, not at all. All right. So what a lot of people were talking about on Sunday and after Sunday, Monday, was the memorial of Charlie Kirk, which was held at the State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, and was full. I think they had an estimate of they had a capacity of 64,000. And then they also took over an arena nearby for overflow that also filled up.
And then they had to turn away tons of people.
Yeah, they're estimating that close to maybe 200,000 people attempted to attend the memorial. So a lot of people had to be turned around. And also notice that there was no fights, no violence, nothing. It was just, a peaceful gathering. People, I think, were lining up starting at midnight, or I think they didn't allow people to start lining up until 1 a.m. or something.
Which is crazy when you think about it, too, that under those kinds of conditions, because I knew people that were in line that got in, some that got turned away. Lots of those people, even the people who were turned away, were in line for, 6, 7, 8 hours. It's standing room only. And they were explaining to me, you're packed in there, body to body. It's hot, and
it's Arizona.
You weren't allowed to have bags of any kind, not even no purses, nothing, not like like a little mini satchel. So definitely if people had kids, they had no way to feed them. You could have disposable water bottles, I believe, and then you'd have to throw them away before you went into the stadium. But that's no snacks, nothing. And so when you factor in all of that, like people are tired, they're hot, they're hungry, and still everybody, I was watching them usher them inside the stadium, going up and down the escalators and walking up and down the stairs. And everybody was just being extremely respectful and kind with each other. And that's pretty remarkable that there wasn't incident with that many people in one place.
Yeah. As crowded as it was, and it was first come, first served. Like, just because you got a ticket or just because you registered doesn't necessarily mean that you were going to be able to enter the memorial. So I don't know. How do you want to start on the memorial service? Because I really want to go over some of the highlights of it. Because one of the ones that, like, it started with a praise and worship. For me, one of the most striking things about it is, like, there was, of course, all kinds of speakers. You had speakers from Turning Point USA. You had staff that spoke. His pastor spoke, which was Roy McCory.
And his son works with
Mikey. He also spoke. And the director of his Hillsdale College also,
Larry Yarn, the president.
And so it was really neat to see that. But as you moved through the memorial, you started to see the administration started to come up and speak. And there was a few also friends of Charlie Kirk who were also podcasters / influencers, like Jack Posobiec and Benny Johnson, which
maybe we should say our favorite, and then one that,
well, I know who your favorite's going to be.
You think maybe our favorite, and the one that we might have taken an issue with for one reason or another. And then,
well, that's what's kind of I was building up to, because I think out of all of them, like, to have your leaders go up there and speak, and some of them like sharing the gospel,
right?
But one of them that was most clear about sharing the gospel from the administration was Marco Rubio.
I know.
And I was, he is, as far as I know, he's Roman Catholic. And so I was a little surprised by his speech and the way that he was just flat out sharing the gospel. And I think, because everyone else is like, of course, they would talk about Charlie's faith and they would talk about their own. But it still had some kind of, political commentary along with it. But I feel like Rubio was just straight speaking truth.
Well, it was like he was there on a mission, and he just was like, we're gonna talk about the most important reason why we're all here, or that why we have hope, and in a world that has no hope when people they care about die. And it was so clear and concise. I thought him and Frank Turek, those were the most clear explanations of the gospel. And then, of course, when Turek, it was basically penal substitution, like making it clear, like, you can't get to heaven by yourself. This was done for you. Believe and be saved. And then Marco was just like, I'm going, are you a preacher? He's an evangelist in different life? What's going on? Now he's a preacher. I was going to try and make a meme about that. Like,
he's like, all
Trump
of the jobs
has put him in charge of, like, the faith office at the White House. But
I know.
It was very clear.
I want to play it for everyone so they can hear. I just have a segment of what he had to share.
His deep belief that we were all created, every single one of us, before the beginning of time, by the hands of the God of the universe, an all-powerful God, who loved us and created us for the purpose of living with him in eternity. But then sin entered the world and separated us from our Creator. And so God took on the form of a man and came down and lived among us. And he suffered like men. And he died like a man. But on the third day he rose unlike any mortal man. And to prove any doubters wrong, he ate with his disciples so they could see, and they touched his wounds. He didn't rise as a ghost or as a spirit, but as flesh. And then he rose to the heaven, but he promised he would return. And he will. And when he returns, Because he took on that death, because he carried that cross, we were freed from the sin that separated us from him. And when he returns, there will be a new heaven and a new earth, and we will all be together, and we are going to have a great reunion there again with Charlie and all the people we love. Thank you, and God bless you.
I mean,
Mark,
I know. What the?
I've known it from the beginning. I
I'm
knew
not
it
having feelings.
in 2016. I've been saying it, everybody.
I was just the most, I remember sitting there with my husband. We both looked at each other and were like,
yeah, it was wonderful.
Pastor Marco, like what?
He knew what he was
on?
coming to do. He knew, and he had the foresight to know that every one of those other heads of state, or people from the administration, I should say, were going to talk about politics and infuse it. And also some were going to be there explicitly, like Stephen Miller, to talk about like extinguishing evil, right? And so he knew he had a purpose, and he had one shot, and he had like 5 minutes. And what are you going to use that 5 minutes? I don't think him and Charlie were like palling around going and getting beers. So he's like, I'm not going to do the friendship angle. I knew him and respected him, but I have one chance. What could I do? And he did it. He delivered.
He did. It was like, and it was funny too, because I talked about it on my stories, and a lot of people were like, why am I not seeing the clip? I have barely seen any clips. And as powerful as his message was, like, they're right. Like, I did not see it shared nearly as much as I saw everyone. Obviously, Erica's was going to go all over the place.
Of course.
That was clear. And, you'd see some stuff with the president. But I was kind of surprised that you didn't see more of Marco. But I think, too, it's just like when I was watching the memorial, leading up to the memorial, I was nervous. I'm not going to lie. I was nervous that this is going to turn into like a political who's who and messaging, trying to one up each other and, those people and pointing the finger about, who, killed or what killed Charlie. And I was really relieved that did not turn out to be the case. And this was, I think, a very suited, considering that Charlie was such, he was a devout Christian and he was a political powerhouse. I felt that the memorial was a very good marrying of the two in recognition of Charlie.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Agree. It
and
totally
not so
makes
much,
sense.
Yeah, like it's not that it was a political rally cloaked with religion or something like that.
Well, I mean, the media thinks it is. That's what they're all saying, of course.
I just didn't see it that way at all.
Well, the point is that he was political. Like you can't separate politics from Charlie, but what he did was he used politics. I think he used politics to bring people back to the foundational, what the real source of liberty is, which is Christ. So you can't, to not have an American flag hanging or not have, something political be talked about it'd be disingenuous. But what should be noticed is that the overarching theme throughout the music, throughout the instruments used, throughout
even the
speeches,
speakers.
even. Yeah. I mean, and I was surprised by that. I could have done without some of the influencer
element.
What's the word? Yeah, the pomp kind of. But but I think, it was really appropriate and it was really well done. And I was like you, where I was sitting down at 2:00 in the afternoon going, okay, this better go okay. And I was nervous about security issues, having so many. I mean, literally everybody from the administration was there. I heard that Secretary Bessent was the designated survivor because they literally had everyone.
Yeah.
I was nervous about that. I was nervous that it was just going to become not that I would have minded it, but I was nervous there would be way too much political and less faith and messaging about Christ, so that then everybody could be like, look, Christian nationalists, which
we'll get into. We will get into.
But, I just, it was a great balance.
Well, the one speech that, besides Erica and the president, one of the things that got a lot of attention was Stephen Miller's speech. And I'm going to play a segment here before we get into it.
The storm whispers to the warrior that you cannot withstand my strength. And the warrior whispers back, I am the storm. Erica is the storm. We are the storm. And our enemies cannot comprehend our strength, our determination, our resolve, our passion. Our lineage and our legacy hails back to Athens, to Rome, to Philadelphia, to Monticello. Our ancestors built the cities. They produced the art and architecture. They built the industry. Erica stands on the shoulders of thousands of years of warriors, of women who raised up families, raised up city, raised up industry, raised up civilization, who pulled us out of the caves and the darkness into the light. The light will defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us. Because we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing. We are the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity. You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You have made him immortal. You have immortalized Charlie Kirk. And now millions will carry on his legacy.
Some strong words right there. Also, can I just comment on that tick that he has?
Which one?
The neck tick.
Oh, it's funny. I never really noticed it.
You never
before.
noticed it?
Mm-mm.
It's always, he's like,
No.
it's like a punctuation at the end of one of his statements. He'll say something and then he'll do one of these. And I'm just like, that's a
interesting.
very interesting. Watch it next time.
Okay, now I will.
So I didn't take that speech in a negative way at all.
No.
I saw it and I didn't see it as especially his speech was being compared to Nazi propaganda, Third Reich type language or something along those lines.
Well, before we get serious about it, I did have a moment where I was watching it and it reminded me of Dwight in The Office when he had to stand up. And it made me think about that because he has that cadence when he talks.
Does have that vibe.
So that was my initial thought, but finish what you were going to say.
Well, I'm just thinking and it's not to dismiss maybe the optics of what maybe somebody else had seen, but I don't to me, he is talking about the West. And he is talking about the history of the West, which goes back to the academics, the scholars of that is what our founding fathers looked to. John Locke, that is what they look to in addition to
Aristotle, going all the way back to the open forum of dialogue in Greece. Yes. And I'm pretty sure I know a clip that you're going to play talking about this, but yeah.
Well, that to me, what he's a lot of people are like, oh, or not a lot of people, people from the left who were commenting on they're trying to tie it to race. And
of course.
I did not see that speech being tied to race as much as I saw it being tied to philosophy, to principles, to the lineage that brought the United States into existence. Liberty, freedom of speech, debate, the creation of the arts, allowing free speech and expression.
Industry and creation.
Exactly. And that those things create beauty. They create... they build things, they build families, they build cities, they build, and that when you go and you look back at things that were the opposite of that, communism, socialism, dictatorships, people who used political violence to silence others, what have they built? They have built nothing.
No, in fact, they tear things down.
And so that's how I read it.
Yeah.
I'm not walking around here. I was like, holy smokes, that's it. That this is what's opened my eyes to I didn't see anything at all that to me would be about race as much as it is ideas, because anybody can come in and step into these ideas.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I totally understand what you're saying. And I agree. I had a couple thoughts. First of all, I'm trying to think which I should say first. First of all, I think that he was already going to have a hard time regardless of what he said, because people in general, a lot of people,
they don't like Miller.
Everybody on the left doesn't like Stephen Miller and thinks he's actually an awful human being. Even some people on the right, I think, struggle with his intensity because he's at a 10 at all times. I personally appreciate that about people and think that every organization needs a Stephen Miller who's going to say the thing and could not care less if you disagree with him. He's just going to, okay, so he was already starting out at a disadvantage, not that he cares. So if you don't like him, of course, most people run to like worst case scenario or just assume the worst about him. And people are going to hear that and think that he means, like white Republicans. We're the ones who build. We're the ones who do things. You guys do nothing. You are nothing. But really what that seemed to me to be was very much what you were saying. You're either going to build things, which is what Christ, when you love him and you're in relationship with him, goodness and beauty flows out of you. When you're in the dark and you're in a relationship with evil, everything is destruction. Everything is destroyed. Everything good that God has is flipped on its side. My pastor often talks about that the devil isn't creative, but he's very clever. And every single thing that Christ has made in the created order, the devil doesn't create anything new. He just takes what the Lord created for good and he turns it upside down. So anything that was good, like sex, the devil's going to pervert it through pornography, through rape, through all kinds of different things. God made our bodies to be good. The devil will take our self-hatred, our self-loathing, and turn it into, you can have a new body. You can be a new person. You can become a different sex. Anything like that, And when I heard him talking, I really went to that. You're either walking in light or you're walking in darkness. And if you're walking in darkness, you naturally destroy things. And I think that's what he meant, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And also it made me realize that tone matters. And I think that if you took someone, because you'll notice if you were paying attention, Larry Arnn kind of had that exact same through line with what he was talking about. He said the assassin gives nothing to society. The assassin destroys and then is basically forgotten, right? He's saying the exact same thing Stephen Miller's saying. He's just
he
saying
has a better tone.
Right. If someone would have stood up and delivered Stephen Miller's speech and done it in a more gentle way, we wouldn't be talking about it. We would have been like, that was a brilliant speech. Because everything that he said is correct. The only thing I the only thing I took issue with is when him and Larry Arnn both were like, that person will be forgotten. They're nothing. They're nothing. And those are the only times when I go, no one is outside of the redemption of Christ. He can save even the darkest, most evil people, but I think we all know that. They were making a point, and I think
especially Stephen Miller, he's not exactly coming from a very different place than Rubio is, for example.
Right. And I think that also has to be noticed. Everybody wants it to be all about, they're saying, well, it's supposed to be about God's love and forgiveness. And look at Erica's was wonderful, but look at all these other people talking about justice and wanting to extinguish their enemies and get rid of evil. That's not a kumbaya moment. That's not going to bring us together as a nation. And what they're forgetting is God's love has both. It has to have both. It has to have forgiveness and it also has to have justice. It's not like Stephen Miller's a pastor. No, he's a civil magistrate. He works in government and government is supposed to enact just laws. That's what he's referencing. I just thought it was
like
a big
it's the government's duty to enact just laws, and it is Erica who has to give forgiveness, or So like we can't just everybody has their thankfully everybody has their place in their roles, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to function if we were just dominated by only one principle or one purpose, I should say.
Right.
That was the other one. Speaking of not liking your enemies. Trump's comment. Now, look, because I'm saving Erica for last, because I do want to talk about Erica and what she said. Unfortunately, I think you and I talked about this on the back channels, the way the speakers, I really would have preferred that the speakers would have ended with Erica.
Everybody prefers that. Literally everybody except for Trump.
With Trump. And I don't even know if this was kind of like an etiquette thing where it's like he's the president, he should go last.
I don't know.
I mean, It's too much to expect.
I could have
of
gone
our
with-
president to be
I know.
like, let me be gracious and not be last.
Well, and then can I nitpick just one thing? I'm not going
Go
to.
ahead.
It was a beautifully
Absolutely.
orchestrated memorial service. I mean, it was
Yeah.
there was no mistakes. Nothing. No teleprompter stopped. No microphone was buzzing. It was great. I could have gone all day without the "Proud to Be an American" song playing while Trump's walking out. I'm like, why are we doing this right
and that's
now?
okay. So that was one of my things. Like, it's not about you, bro. You
Yeah.
don't need to walk out on
Mm-mm.
your song. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Now, some people will say, well, Charlie would have loved that. That's what Charlie wanted. Obviously, I think, I don't know if Erica, I don't know if even
Maybe
we
it was her
wanna-
decision. Who knows? Maybe
Who
she's
knows?
the one who.
I have no idea. I just know that optically it wasn't great. Now, he is going after Erica, which was a very heavy moment. He, for the most part, stayed on his speech,
Mhm.
had a few deviations, had to plug in a little policy there.
Right.
But primarily what people are upset about was a particular moment within his speech. I'm going to share it here.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent. And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Looking down, he's angry at me now. He wasn't interested in demonizing anyone. He was interested in persuading everyone to the ideas and principles he believed were good, right, and true. Before each appearance, he prayed these words: God, use me for your will. Always said the same thing. Use me for your will.
See, that
So
just
a lot of
didn't bother me. It did not bother me at all.
It didn't bother
In
me
fact, that was
either.
the part of his speech that bothered me the least. I mean, when he starts going off talking about like tariffs or something during a memorial
I was
service,
like,
I'm like,
really, dude?
stop it. It's not a campaign speech, Donald. But that part, I looked at Sean when that part came on and I said, I love that because he's human and he's saying he's human. And he's saying, quite honestly, what a lot of people think inside. If they're honest
Okay,
with themselves,
so
they can
I-
admit, like, I don't like my opponent. I actually don't want good for them. And I need to work on that. And then he said that too. Maybe Erica and Turning Point could convince me otherwise. I thought that was extremely human of him. I liked it, actually. And we needed to laugh. Like, I'd been crying for 3 hours at that point. Make me laugh, Donald. And he did.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, is that, a lot of, he's getting criticisms for that. But in the context of the evening, like, we had just watched Erica give one of the most emotional, heart-wrenching, like, speeches that I have seen in a really long time.
Yeah.
And I think he was just kind of trying to bring back a little bit of levity. I think he's like, I almost identify with it. I get really uncomfortable with like too much emotion and too much tension. And so I make inappropriate jokes at inappropriate times just to kind of like break the ice. You know what I mean? Diffuse it. And so I did not have an issue with that. And he's clearly joking. And yes, within the context of everything that's happened, or at least what you're being told, that he's a horrible dictator. This fits into your narrative or whatever. But I just did not see it that way. I was way more annoyed with the song, with the tariffs, saying Charlie would love tariffs. Charlie didn't love tariffs. Dude, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And that's the funny part too, that people don't ever want to, they don't want to like critically think about things or look past whatever narrative they've been spoon fed. Because if you actually are a student of Trump and you've been watching him, he has tons of enemies that ended up becoming his friends. Like half of his administration, like at some point,
his vice president.
He didn't like him, badmouthed and made fun of Marco Rubio for like a year and a half, and now he works in his administration. Like
he has like 4 jobs.
Yeah, he's not saying I hate him forever and I wish he'd die and I hope for his demise. He's just being a human and saying I don't like my enemies and I don't want good for them. And haha, and let's move on. And I just think people.
Well, and I mean, the funny thing is, I don't even have a clip of this, but one of the viral moments that happened right in the middle of the memorial was the fact that Elon Musk was seen in the president's box. And that they were speaking to each other and shook hands. Yeah. And so, like, they did not, like, that bromance was on major ice.
Yeah. And they said some horrible things about each other, and now they're talking. So everybody tries to make him sound like he is just, he's not as complicated as you guys make him out to be. And he's definitely not as evil as you make him out to be either. And I did think it was actually kind of funny when Donald Trump Jr. said that sometimes he'll get aggressive on social media. And his dad's like, Don, gotta lay off. You're getting a little aggressive.
I thought, like, wait a minute.
Great too.
The president is telling Don Jr. that he needs to like lay off. I was like, I'm actually kind of surprised by that.
Yeah, so am I. I'm like, now I need to follow Donald Trump Jr. everywhere because what's he saying? I've missed it.
But of course, the one that got everyone that went viral that has had a very confusing response, I think, was Erica Kirk's speech. She came out looking amazing, by the way, which she's gotten so much, like, by people who just do not get it.
Yeah.
Getting like criticism because she looked put together. And
what? Who's getting mad at her for looking good? Stop being jealous.
Girl, it's
people
because
need
you're
to
not
stop
on TikTok. Like, there are these women.
It is a net
these
negative.
hateful women on TikTok that are like, if it was me, I would be a disaster. I wouldn't be able to speak at this event. I wouldn't look that good. I wouldn't be able to forgive my husband's assassin.
Like, I think that's saying like a lot more about you than it is about Erica. Maybe that's what the issue is. I mean, I've told Sean multiple times, I'm like, there's no way I'd be standing. I wouldn't be able, but she's been blessed with the ability to do that. Like, why are people having a hard time with it? They're mad at her because her makeup looked nice? Sorry.
Well, again, we're talking about progressive women that are like trying to insinuate that she's like Serena Joy from The Handmaid's Tale. And
who's that?
So if you've read The Handmaid's Tale, Serena Joy is like the female villain in The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh my gosh, why do you do this to yourself? You are on TikTok and you read Margaret Atwood's book.
I do expose myself to all kinds of stuff. And actually, The Handmaid's Tale, the book itself, is not a bad book. Yeah, it's actually a good book.
I'm just so put off now by everybody wearing the outfits all the time when you're like mad.
She is like this evangelist speaker. People will compare her to Ali Bestaki or something like that, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And that she kind of ushers in and opens the door for what becomes Gilead that leads to the oppression of all these women, including herself. So she basically is the cause of her own undoing. So that's who they're kind of comparing her to.
Wow.
While they're comparing her to that, she is forgiving the assassin of her husband. Let me play this clip here, and hopefully we can keep it together.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life. That young man, on the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him. And love for those who
So not only does she forgive the assassin, but like she had a standing ovation for that, which I think reflects to the audience that was in it. And
absolutely.
I don't know. I just think it's really kind of gross, like the commentary that I've seen of Erica and just Christians in general following that, either saying that she's performing, that this is all a production, that she's not being sincere. I think it's because they see it as being the entire memorial. It's very foreign to them. And I think that's part of the reason that they've had this reaction. But I wanted to share a reaction from someone who was in attendance, and she did a video. Actually, no, this was Kazin. I think you've seen him
Yeah.
before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not a believer. He's not, he's not a Christian. And he attended this event. And this is his reaction as someone who was at the event.
So I just got back from Charlie's memorial, and I wish every single person in America got to be in that room today, because God was in that room today. And I wish every single person who just calls the MAGA movement Nazis and fascists just got an experience of getting to go to a place like that and talk to people, because it can be so confusing to understand what's going on in this media landscape, but there are certain things that are just objective. And when you go into a room of 100,000 people who just saw one of their most loved leaders get murdered in front of the world on video, and the reaction of the spouse is, I forgive the murderer. And the reaction of the crowd is to stand up and give her the longest standing ovation of the day. And the reaction of the entire movement is, we're not going to retaliate with more violence. We're going to keep saying the truth, and we're just going to keep saying it louder, and there's going to be more of us. And we're going to forgive the people who did this as we say it. That's objectively healthy. And, I was one of the few black people there. And it saddens me because I was like, man, I wish there were more black people here, because they'd be welcome there. And there's just so much manipulation. Like, we're in such a mental reality where people are so committed to what's in their head that they don't see what's happening in reality, and they don't go experience what's actually happening on the other side. And man, I just wish everyone could have gotten to go, because it was such a beautiful day.
I mean, it's true. That's so,
Yeah.
I love it. I just love that. It challenges me. It reminds me that not everything I consume sitting at my desk is reality. Sometimes it's the reality I've created in my own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good challenge for all of us to, touch grass and actually go to the source of the issues you're talking about as much as you can and talk with people. But I think that right now people are really confused because what they're being told, a very prominent narrative, was flatly shown as false the other night when all of America all around the world watches this memorial service, and it's peaceful and people are talking about their love for the Lord, and someone's being forgiven for assassinating someone else by the widow, and everybody's happy, and then everybody just goes home.
Like, we didn't have any riots. We didn't have,
right,
and she even mentioned that.
Yeah, it's so different from everything you're going to be told by the media. And this is why Mercedes and I harp on the media so much, because media messages proliferate and they become truth and reality. And I just, it's like we're living in different realities. The reality of what we saw on Sunday night, and then the reality of what we're being told on Monday morning that actually happened on Sunday night. They don't go together. They're not congruous.
It has been why, and that's one of the things that I've been over, especially, I feel like we've been through this before, where you expect things are one way, and then you wake up the next morning and there's a segment of people that share a country with you that are seeing things completely opposite.
Yes.
And it's very jarring. And, it is a gaslighting. It's I wrote an article on my Substack yesterday about what I'm labeling as the great gaslighting. It's you see things for what they are with your own eyes because you're experiencing them, and you live with these people and these people.
Yeah.
But then you wake up the next morning and you're being told about how dangerous the memorial was, how it was a political activation. This is the rise of Christian nationalism that is morphing together politics, and because Christians are the only ones who can't make their political choices based on their Christian beliefs. and being like really upset. They're like, this should be a separation of church and state. And I'm like, this was not a governmental like event. Okay. And I don't understand why people are so uncomfortable with the fact that their leaders are Christian believers. And this is the first time that I have seen leaders just be honest on their faith and their belief, and then expose million. I think they're estimating they can't even count how many people actually watched because of people streaming and videos and clips. But like conservatively, they're putting it at like 20 million. And those numbers now, considering how bifurcated we are in regards to how we consume our media, those numbers are unheard of.
Yeah.
Like this was being played on all of the networks across the United States and across the world. Like, I don't like the significance of it is huge. And I don't really know if like people on the left are fully grasping it. And the portion that is kind of getting it, they're freaked out by it. I want to share, I'm sorry to do this to you, but we're all going to listen to Don Lemon real quick. Okay. Deep breaths. Okay. You got it. Okay. You got this. I'm sorry.
It was a revival meeting wrapped in a memorial, a political rally dressed as church. And by the end of the night, it was clear this was not only about Charlie Kirk's death. It was about his afterlife in politics. Donald Trump stood on the stage like a man at the center of a prophecy. He called Charlie Kirk a martyr. Other politicians promised to carry out his mission. The crowd cheered as if the passing of the man had lit some sort of sacred fire.
He's reading.
To me, this was not mourning. This was a mobilization. And here is where we have to tell the truth here. What we saw in that arena was not simply faith-finding public expression. It was religious nationalism on full display. That is the truth. That is my truth. This is my freedom of expression. This is my First Amendment right to be able to tell you the truth from my point of view. Not just from my point of view. This is what it is. The language was unmistakable. Take the nation back for God. Restore America's covenant. This is a holy calling. That's what it sounded like. This is not the language of democracy. This is the language of domination.
Okay, would you like to go first or would you like me to?
No, you go ahead because I can see it all over your face. Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I don't disagree with a lot of what he said. What I disagree with is that he thinks it's a bad thing. Okay, listen.
I think
we don't have an hour. We don't have an hour to talk about Christian nationalism and our opinions on it. But I will say that I was taken aback, but not surprised by leftists and progressive media painting a picture of what this event was like that was disingenuous and dishonest. What I had a problem with, what I was more surprised by, are Christians popping up on Instagram and social media and talking about how they had a problem with it. And I realized it bothers me because first of all, none of them have a working definition of what Christian nationalism is. And they just say that whenever something makes them feel uneasy, when like there's an American flag in the same room where someone's
they
like
have an
saying
issue
a prayer.
Of Christians being political is what it
Right,
is,
and
which
they
I
have-
think is
and-
ridiculous.
Of course. And what that reminded me of when I was getting so irritated, I was like, how can this happen? How can this happen? And then I realized it's because we have removed God so much from everywhere in the country that now the idea of being, like you said, like political and a faithful Christian at the same time doesn't sit well with people because we've taken God out of literally everything, even churches. I mean, we're not even preaching the gospel anymore. We're just saying things that make people feel good. And so there's a fundamental misunderstanding about how throughout all of history, men and women have been called to go into political areas and speak truth into those areas. God literally ordains it, and it's in the Bible, and it's all throughout history. This is not new that people can exist as two things, political beings and Christians. It doesn't surprise me that leftists are doing this and having this reaction, but it does surprise me that Christians are. And it makes me sad because it's a sign that we have a fundamental misunderstanding about what it takes to impact culture and government and laws and legislation. So That's where I'm
Well,
at on it.
I think
don't
very much one of the issues that we've had over the last few decades is the fact that Christians have taken themselves out of politics, and they have
Right.
taken their faith out of their politics.
Right. Yes.
You know, I'm sorry, but what ends up happening, that is one of the reasons that we have seen this rise that has happened through legislation or through movements, you know,
Yeah.
or abuses of legislation, like, you know, the abuse of Title IX and everything, is because we have taken ourselves out of the politics, and we're afraid to, you know,
Assert
make
our belief
political
system.
decisions based on our life choice, like how we would live our lives. And
Right.
that's why we've seen an erosion of religious liberty.
Well, and that's why now all of this bad legislation is being passed, and Christians start going, wait a second, wait a second. And it's like, well, you pieced out and you handed over the reins and didn't want to talk about your religious beliefs that are fundamental to your core humanity. And this is what's going to happen. And so now there's a quote unquote revival, because everybody's going, well, it wasn't working the way we were doing it. How about we just get honest about what we believe and let's talk about it? And people are hungry for that now. And my hope is that there's this whole group, this whole segment of society inspired by someone like Charlie Kirk. I hope they all find Bible-believing, scripture-preaching churches so that they can be powerful in both word and deed and their understanding of, you know, the foundation of Christ's love for us. But Don Lemon wasn't wrong. You know what he is? He's mad. You can tell when he's talking.
Well,
you
and
can
I'm
hear
only
he's
using
afraid.
him. I used him as the audio for the example of the conversations that I was seeing online. And I think a lot of people too, they're coming from a place where they believe, like we saw Tim Kaine make a comment about how our rights were not given to us by our creator, but they're given us to by the government. Because to think that they're given to us by our creator is theocratic. And I'm like, no one in that memorial is pushing for a theocracy. And I think a lot of times the idea of Christian nationalism is tied to either, it can be two things. It can be either a replacement of God with government, so a worship of government, which is a big no-no and is not at all what I saw in that memorial.
No.
Or that it becomes a theocracy where Christianity is pushed as the religion of the state.
Well, the state religion, right?
Yeah, and that like you have to follow it and you have to be a Christian in order to. That also is not like we've seen countries where there is. I mean, what's funny to me is like they're not particularly upset of the, you know, UAE or anything like that, or Saudi Arabia, who's primarily like they are a Muslim country.
Right.
But, you know, they're okay. Like it's okay over there, and it's okay if they want to bring it over here. But like the moment they see the open display of Christianity, especially a Protestant Pentecostal, you know, display of Christianity, they get like really nervous. And I wanted to actually share
it's powerful, actually.
Well, it's powerful, but also like I have a few X posts here that I thought gave a good contrast between the two before I go ahead and start wrapping us up. So this is Bridget Finnessy, and she's a comedian. She's pretty centrist, and she is I believe on with like the two-way platform. And she says, I'm seeing the media try to grapple with what happened yesterday, and it dawns on me that they have no framework for this. If anyone in America lacks representation, it's people of faith. Belief in God has been mocked and trivialized. It's a punchline at best. And
like I said, we've taken God out of everything. So now they're having to grapple with this idea of it existing and people being Christian and political at the same time. They don't even know what to do with that.
Yeah, like they're weirded out by it. And so this is also Kazin that he, like the gentleman that we just listened to talk about his experience at the memorial, he also posted this on X. He goes, it's not Christian nationalism. It's the revival of Christianity in our nation, and we need it. Social ideology is a poor substitution for God. This is a quote. Our Constitution was made only for moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. That is John Adams. Then he goes, Christian nationalism is the unification of church and state. No one is calling for that. The founding fathers understood freedom of religion is essential. They also knew morality and virtue are things government can't do for society. those things are in the dominion of God. And I just want to share that this is like, these are not Christians. These are people who understand the importance of having a country that is rooted in a faith, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to force it. Like you're not going to force it on everyone. We're not a theocracy here. That is not what the founding fathers established. And that is nowhere where anyone is wanting to go.
Right.
And then on the other coin, I thought these were interesting, which they were much more kind of reflective. So this is Thomas Carlton Williams. He's an author over at the
Chatterton.
Sorry. Thomas Chatterton Williams. He is over at the Atlantic. And he has, for those of you who aren't watching, there's 2 pictures of the memorial service at Turning Point, of Turning Point. And it says, because it has a Turning Point logo, I should say. It says, I've spent half my adult life living in one foreign country or another, and I don't think I've ever felt so estranged from the surrounding culture as I am from the aesthetic and sensibilities of this movement. Not even a criticism. I feel more at home in Greece than in these images. So he's just having an issue with the way it looks. Yeah. Like, this looks weird. It looks foreign to me. It looks déclassé is almost how it comes off. And so he's like, I don't even feel like this is the most American expression that you will see within a good majority of the country, especially in the middle of the country. And he just cannot wrap his brain around it. And then this last one is Dan Williams. So this is a Brit. And I thought this one was interesting, especially the replies of it, which I'll summarize. It says, watching the Charlie Kirk memorial, I'm struck about how extremely culturally distant I feel from this world. Everything about it feels alien. The aesthetics, symbolism, music, rituals, mythology, gurus, ideas, and norms. It feels like being exposed to the culture and symbolic universe of a distant tribe. If I reflect on this, it occurs to me that this feeling must be symmetrical, that they must view the kind of cultural universe I inhabit as similarly alien. And in a strange way, despite opposing almost everything about this political project, this reflection makes me feel more empathy for what the project must feel like from the inside. And now this one I found particularly interesting because many of the replies actually focused on pointing out that it is not symmetrical. It is actually asymmetrical because we as Christians live in the world. We are constantly bombarded with the world that these 2 individuals live in. But they're not exposed to ours.
Correct.
And that is why ours comes off as so foreign. And it almost roots back to, like, you know how like a lot of times there was always, especially when I was growing up, there was always this language that a lot of bigotry or prejudice comes from ignorance and for something being unfamiliar, feeling uncomfortable and therefore threatening. And I think that's very much what this situation has exposed.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The last one is interesting. And I was reading, I was like, that's an interesting thought. And then I realized, no, as Christians, we are forced to consume and understand the viewpoint of progressives and leftists and how they view God and religion. We see it all the time. That display must feel weird to them if they've never stepped foot in any type of church in their life, if they've never talked to an evangelical or a Republican. But we, as Republicans, see on X and social media all the time the left's idea of church. We see, lady Episcopal priests running around with rainbow flags all the time. And that's what they think of as religion. And we have to consume that kind of like skin suit religion, which we know that's wrong, but they don't ever have to confront, a small parish down the road that sings hymns and the families are just generally kind of nice and then they have coffee and then they go home. Like, they don't ever have to experience that or talk with a Republican gun owner that is a deacon on the church staff. And so, no, we do know the world, the cultural world you live in, because we live in that. But then we also live in the very real world that we inhabit as Christians. And so, no, you don't understand. We're not the same.
And I think that's where this Christian nationalism panic comes from.
Because they're just scared.
Yeah. It's just...
Well, and the first one, Dazen, when he was quoting what Christian nationalism is. So I wrote a Substack piece about the Christian nationalism issue yesterday, and what I was talking about earlier about just being surprised by Christians' response to Sunday night. When I was working on a working definition of it, this is what I repeatedly saw over and over. Quote, Christian nationalism is a form of religious nationalism that focuses on promoting the Christian view of its followers in order to achieve prominence or dominance in political, cultural, and social life. And I saw that in more than one place. And of course, it ties in. It says it could also mean having a state religion, which we will never have. That's in our founding documents. That's fine.
I don't really see the issue with the first one. Like, that's what
I don't either.
I'm been doing forever.
Sign me up. We all are going to try and create what it is we hold as our faith. And for some people, that's no faith. And so that they're going to go work it out in that way. And we're going to do that too. That's why I think people don't actually understand what they mean. There's like 25 different working definitions for Christian nationalism, and everybody just uses whichever one suits their narrative at the moment. But really what these people who are signaling Christian nationalism is on the rise and all of these white Republicans are going to take over, they're just signaling that they're really unfamiliar with what's happening because God has been removed from all of our culture. And now they're having to reckon with that, with how uncomfortable that makes them and how alluring it is, because we all have a God-sized hole that needs to be filled.
Because what we've been offered by the rise of, the dominance of secularism, I should say, is nothing. Like, it's subjective. It's not, and it's just going to be, I think we're seeing that. We'll see how it pans out. But, you're seeing that with the youth right now. Like, it has led to a degree of nihilism, and they don't want that anymore. And I think that's fine. Like, you don't even, and here's what's interesting about the two that from Bridget and from Kazin that I shared. I might be mispronouncing his name, but they're just acknowledging that it is a good thing. They're not even saying like, I as a Christian, that's what I want. No, they're just saying like, this is a good thing. This is a good thing to have a purpose. It's a good thing to have something rooted in truth, that everybody's kind of, on the same page, culturally that we're aligned. Like, this is what creates peace in a nation. It shouldn't be
Well, you heard
it shouldn't be that controversial.
I was listening to Ben Shapiro yesterday on his podcast because he was in the vice president's box and he was listening to the entire thing. And he's like, he could not stop talking about how amazing the whole day was. And he said, I am a Jew. I do not believe what these people believe. And I'm very excited for this movement. We need this. We need people to return back to these types of values because they are the undergirding of our entire society, and the foundational truth that Christians believe is what holds up the whole project. Without it, it crumbles, just like John Adams said. And so, and he's like, I don't even agree with, clearly he doesn't. He's Jewish. He is not a Christian, but he was like, it was objectively amazing. And I am so blessed to be there. And I so hope that this continues to grow, this movement. So they're just observing reality, really.
So, yes, maybe the whole argument of representation does matter. Maybe Christians need to.
Totally.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping us up for today's episode of Rivera and Reeves. If this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss another episode. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday. If you're a paying supporter, you're getting this video and audio ad-free hours and a day before everyone else. So if you just cannot wait, there's a discount link in the show notes so you too can become a paying supporter. Reminder for our supporters, we'll have a bonus episode this weekend of Unfiltered for you. I don't even know what we're talking about yet because
there's plenty. We can just seriously, we should just have this big wheel where we spin it and it lands and we pop off because there's so much.
That's it.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bounce, and that's it. That's a reminder that the media is trash and we have no tolerance for it. Okay, bye.